When we meditate on our hand, we see that our hand has the wisdom of non-discrimination. Vô phân biệt trí. Nirvikalpa. Snana. This is the wisdom. This is discrimination. This is a non-discrimination. The wisdom of non-discrimination. This hand of mine, it has a name, right hand. In principle, it's not my left hand. My left hand is another hand. It has its own name. And yet the two hands do not discriminate against each other. My right hand has written many books, has done a lot of calligraphy, has played the drum and the bell, and all of the poems had been written by the right hand. But my right hand never looked down on my left hand. It never say, left hand, you seem to be good for nothing. You are lazy. You are not very useful. All the poems of Thầy, it's me who have written. So my right hand is free from the complex of superiority. And my left hand, she does not suffer at all of the complex of inferiority. In fact, there was one time when Thầy wrote a poem with two hands. The only time. And that he always write poem with a pen. And that day he did not have a pen. He was in the office of someone with an old typewriter. So a poem came and it wants to come out. So Thầy used an old envelope and type. The only poem that is typed on the typewriter. The title of the poem is The Little Buffalo Chasing After the Sun. And that is the only poem written by both hands. Otherwise, all the other poems were written by the right hand. So the left hand, although it has not done the things that the right hand has done, but it has no complex at all. That is why it's still very happy. And there is no hate, no jealousy, because there is no discrimination in both my hands. So I used to tell the story that one day my two hands tried to hang a picture on the wall, and my left hand was holding a nail, my right hand a hammer. And I was not lucky that day, because instead of pounding on the nail, it pounded on the finger. Right away, the right hand put down the hammer and took care of the left hand, like taking care of itself. It does not think that it is taking care of someone else. The beloved and the lover, they are one. In true love, there is no distinction about the lover and the beloved. They are one. They are the same. There's no frontier between the one who loved and the one who is loved. The suffering of the other hand is the suffering of this hand. The happiness of the other person is the happiness of this person. There is no more individual happiness. There is no more individual suffering. In true love, there is the mind of non-discrimination. The frontier between the lover and the loved one disappears. And my right hand did not think like this. There's no wrong thinking. Left hand, I'm taking good care of you. Remember, when I find myself in trouble, you have to come and help me. There's no kind, not that kind of thinking like this. And my left hand did not get angry, did not say, right hand, you have done me injustice. You have made me suffer. I want justice. Please give me that hammer. There's no such thinking in my left hand. So the mind of non-discrimination is something real. And if you dwell with, if you know how to make use of the mind of non-discrimination, there is a harmony, there is a peace, there is happiness, there is love. And you also, with that mind of non-discrimination, touch the ultimate truth, ultimate reality. Because the mind of this non-discrimination is free from all notions and concepts and afflictions. And the practitioner living her life in such a way that she allowed the mind of discrimination to grow. And that is the main instrument for the yogi and the scientist. And the ultimate will be out of reach, even to the scientists, if they do not use that kind of mind. Namely, if they don't know how to get rid slowly of the notions that they are used. They are used to be. In order to arrive at the theory of unity of everything, the scientist has to learn how to release notions. Because, and there is a way, we can begin with skillfully using notions. And finally, we can get rid of notions. It's like the case of Buddhism, where you are authorized to use notions in such a way that you can slowly discard these notions. When we use the word interbeing, we are still using the word being. But interbeing is already different from being. And you say that you cannot be by yourself alone. You have to interbe with all of us. So you remove the notion of being, and you do not fall into the trap of the notion of non-being. And that is why there is a sutra on page 24 about the adaptation of conditioned genesis connected with emptiness. First of all, we use this is because that is. Everything you say may be a trap, even that is skillfully said. So that one who say has to be very skillful in order for the other person not to be trapped into it. And this is a very skillful way. And yet, we have to be careful. We can get trapped into it. Because in that sentence, this is not that, because there's the distinction between this and that. Things are outside of each other. In classical physics, the object of your inquiry, they can exist independently from each other. They can be located in space and time, definite space and time, and we can conceive of their path very clearly. But in quantum physics, it's no longer like that. Position, path, speed, space, time are not determinate anymore. So in the beginning we think this is not that. But with the inquiry we know that this is there because that is there at the same time. It means this rely on that in order to be. And we slowly see that this is not outside of that, this is in that. Remember the sheet of paper? The left and the right are no longer enemies existing outside of each other. They are linked to each other in such a point that you cannot take the left out of the right and the right out of the left. And this is conditioned genesis. And the practitioner, the Buddhist practitioner, is skillful enough in order to adapt, to make good use of these notions in order to slowly discard them and leave them behind in order to be able to come to touch the ultimate. Conditioned genesis. Conditioned genesis is prati tiya samutpada. This is a conditioned genesis. But we have to use our mind skillfully. It's kind of wisdom, called the wisdom of adaptation. We have to go slowly. We cannot jump from the realm of phenomena to the realm of noumena, just like that. We have to release slowly the notions. And we have to begin with looking deeply into the nature of conditioned genesis into being. And that kind of adaptation is called Anulomata. Adaptation, this is adaptation. And the Chinese is Tùy Thuận. You skillfully follow, you skillfully adapt this kind of language, that kind of thinking and measuring in a way that you not caught in it, and the other person who listen to you will not caught into it. Skillfulness. There is a Zen master who talked about the three jewels. And one day he said, I'm reluctant every time I pronounce the word Buddha, because I'm afraid that you are caught by the notion of Buddha. So I'm forced to use the word Buddha. But I know that pronouncing the name of Buddha can cause damage, because you might be caught. And that is why every time I have to pronounce the word Buddha, after that I have to go to my bathroom and rinse my mouth 3 times. And that is a skillful way in order to tell his disciple not to be caught in the notion of Buddha. They would do differently. They said that Buddha is made of non-Buddha elements that help them not to be caught. And you know, something happened after that. There is one person sitting in the audience, and he said, "Dear teacher, every time I hear you pronounce the word Buddha, I have to go to the river and cleanse my ear for 3 times. That is a good student." He wanted to say that, no, don't be afraid, I am not caught in the notion of Buddha. You see, that is a Zen story. So those of us who need to use language and notions in order to help, you have to be very careful, skillful, not to be caught in these notions and language and words, and help the other people who listen to you not to be caught at the same time. I think as scientists of our time begin to feel that kind of difficulties also. So anuloma jnana is the wisdom of adaptation. And when you skillfully use the wisdom of adaptation to help people look into the nature of interbeing, and you can lead people to touch the ultimate, to connect with shunyata. Swami Ukta. This is connected with shunyata. Shunyata is the way the term used in order to describe the ultimate emptiness. Emptiness is the ultimate, free from all notions and concepts and words. And in order to touch the ultimate, in order to go in line, connected with Shunyata, you have to use skillful means. You have to use the wisdom of adaptation and help yourself and people look into the nature of interbeing. And then you can touch the ultimate Shunyata. In this sutra, it is taught that on the page 25, the fifth paragraph, profound indeed is this, namely conditioned genesis, dependent arising. We need to concentrate and to look deeply into the nature of everything in order to recognize the nature of interbeing. It means conditioned genesis. Conditioned genesis is this is because that is. The Buddha tried to use a very simple word. How the world come to be, and this is the Buddhist answer. This is because that is. That is because that is. Everything depends on everything else in order to manifest. There is no birth, no dying, there is only manifestation. Profound indeed is this, namely interbeing, namely conditioned genesis. And even more profound, more difficult to see is this, namely the extinction of all attachment, the destruction of craving, the fading of away of desire, the cessation of suffering, nirvana. We can add the removal of all notions and concepts. Letting go is the practice. Letting go of all notions and concepts you have of reality. And these two dharma are namely the compounded and the uncompounded. Compounded hữu vi, the realm of the compounded. It gives you the idea that things can be born, can die, things can be outside of each other. The realm of the compounded. But hidden behind is the realm of the uncompounded. And that is why the Buddha said, this is difficult to see the nature of interbeing. And even it is more difficult to see the world of no birth and no death. But the realm of no birth, no death is not a kind of realm that is outside of the realm of birth and death. And touching this realm skillfully with the wisdom of adaptation, you can go deeper and you touch the world of unconditioned, uncompounded. The compounded is arising, persisting, changing, passing away. The uncompounded is not arising, persisting, not changing, not passing away. We like to use in Plumlish the image of the cloud. The cloud is a compounded thing. And if we look superficially, we think that the cloud is subjected to birth and death, coming and going, being and non-being. But if we want to see more deeply, we practice looking, and thanks to that observation, we find out that it is not possible for a cloud to be born or to die. And the cloud looking down and see that it has the continuation already down there. The cloud is not only in the cloud is also outside of the cloud. Maybe half a cloud has become rain or tea or corn or rice. And then the cloud has to be able to see herself in the light of signlessness. When you drink your tea mindfully with concentration, you might see your cloud in your tea, not in the form of a cloud, but your cloud is there. So that is to see with the wisdom of signlessness. You don't see it, and yet it is there. It's like the plant of corn. You look at the plant of corn, you don't see the grain of corn, but the grain of corn is still there in the plant of corn. You see in the light of signlessness. You don't need an appearance in order to recognize something. So when you look at a living being, a human being, you can see his animal ancestors, his vegetable ancestors, and his mineral ancestors. And you can see with your mind of non-discrimination. You can see with your mind of signlessness. You don't need a sign in order to recognize your cloud. Your tea does not have the form of a cloud. But to say that the cloud is not there in the tea, that's not right thinking. So concerning our own birth and death, our continuation, we have to learn to look. And we recognize that we are not only in here, we are also out there. And the frontier between the inside and the outside may vanish. I think this can be a good inspiration for scientists. The electron is not just inside of it. It's not only the neck mass. The electron is also the kind of interaction with the electromagnetic field, which is part of the electron. It's not just inside of electron. So the removal of the notion of inside and outside is very crucial in order to understand an electron, or to understand a cloud, or to understand a human being. In Mahayana Buddhism, this is made very clear. Klesha is body. Klesha means our afflictions. Our afflictions like anger and fear and ignorance. And you should not look for enlightenment body outside of your afflictions. It's by looking deeply into the nature of your afflictions, your anger, your fear, your despair, that you can find enlightenment. Phiền não tức Bồ Đề. This is enlightenment. This is afflictions. Don't think that you can find enlightenment outside of afflictions, and you don't think that you can find affliction outside of enlightenment. And the formula used in Plum Ridge is very easy. Afflictions are made of non-affliction elements. Enlightenment is made of non-enlightenment elements. It's very helpful, that formula. A flower is made of non-flower elements. Suffering is made of non-suffering elements. It can be very helpful to us. We can get out of that notion that things can exist by themselves. And this is because that is very simple. Samsara is Nirvana. Samsara is sinh tử. The round of birth and death is Nirvana, the extinction of birth and death. And we are advised to look for Nirvana right in the heart of samsara. In the cloud of birth and death, being and non-being, if we look deeply, we see the cloud of no birth and no death. We don't have to look for another cloud. It's the same cloud, but with afflictions, with ignorance, the cloud is bound to birth and death, being and non-being. But with freedom, with the mind of non-discrimination, we can touch the nature of no birth and no death, no being and no non-being of the cloud. So samsara, the realm of birth and death, and nirvana, the realm of no birth and no death, they are not outside of each other. That is interbeing. And this is very clear in the teaching of Mahayana Buddhism. You don't try to avoid one thing and to search for another thing. The wave does not have to go and look for water. She is water. So let us imagine ourselves as a stream of water born from the top of a mountain. We are going down joyfully as a young person. We want to go fast. We jump. We sing. Do we have a beginning? Because the stream of water born on the top of mountain has not come from nothing. She has come from the rain. She has come from the sky, from the clouds. And she enjoys flowing down as a stream of water, as a source. And she wants to go fast. She's very excited to go to the ocean. And as she comes to the lowland, she slows down. As we grow into an adult, we go a little bit more slowly, and we take time to look around. And the young river begin to notice that are clouds reflected in her bed. There are many kinds of clouds of different kind of colors, and the young river enjoy chasing after clouds. That is what we do when we are young. We are chasing after clouds. We chase one cloud after another. And we think that our happiness will not be possible if we cannot get hold of one cloud. The clouds are so beautiful. And how can we live without the clouds reflected in our bed? So the river continued to chase after clouds, and she undergo a lot of suffering, because clouds are impermanent. One day they are there, another day they go away. And our life is like that. We are a river, and we have been chasing after clouds, one after another. And we have cried many times, every time we lose one cloud. One day, the sky is desperately empty. There is no cloud reflecting in the river. And the river is so sad. She wants to die. Life has no more meaning. But how can a river die? How can a river commit suicide? There is no alternative. The river should continue to flow. And that night, suffering so much, she had a chance to come back to herself and listening to her own suffering, listening to her own cries, the sound of her water lapping against the bank of the river. And because she is able to go back to herself and listening to her suffering, she began to understand. And she realized for the first time in her life that she is made of clouds. She has been chasing clouds, and she did not know that she is cloud. She has everything in herself, all conditions to be happy. The fact is that you are already what you want to become. And that is the teaching of Aparanahita, aimlessness. You don't have to run after anything at all. You have everything in you. Vô nguyện. Vô nguyện. This is one of the three doors of liberation. The first one is emptiness, shunyata. The second one is signlessness, animitta. And the third one is aimlessness. So the wave doesn't have to go and search for water anymore. The wave is water. Aparanihita means not to put something in front of you as the object of your searching. And that is why it's translated as aimlessness. And in French, we like to translate it as la non-poursuite, la non-poursuite. You have everything in yourself. You have the kingdom of God in yourself. You have the Buddha land in yourself. You have the Buddha, you have peace, you have joy. Everything is there. You don't have to look for the Buddha outside of you. You don't have to look for the ultimate outside of you. And the moment when you stop running, you begin to have peace and happiness and the feeling of fulfillment. And that is the third door of liberation, namely la non-poursuite, aimlessness. And that night, the river came home to herself and listened to the sound of lapping of her water and discovered that she is made of water. She is made of cloud. She doesn't have to run after any cloud at all. And she got enlightened that night. The next day, the cloud came back to the sky. And she enjoyed reflecting the cloud, but she's no longer attached to any particular cloud. She's free. And you can imagine that is a full moon night, that night. And you can see the cloud and the moon and the river, they hold hand of each other and they practice walking meditation, or flowing meditation. They don't need to arrive at the ocean because to the ocean there's also water. So please, my dear friends, we are a Sangha. And we have the Buddha, the Dharma. We have each other. And as a cell in the Buddha body, as a cell in the Sangha body, we should be able to every day generate the energy of mindfulness, concentration, insight, peace, and compassion to nourish us and to nourish the Sangha body, the Buddha body. Because the Sangha and the Buddha body is the hope for the world, for our society, for our planet. Wherever you go, the Sangha is with you, the Buddha is with you. And we can learn to stay always with the Sangha. Wherever we are, the Sangha body is there. And that can give us a lot of happiness. Many of us have received the 5 mindfulness trainings, representing the wisdom of non-discrimination, the wisdom of interbeing. And the 5 trainings are very concrete ways in order to practice mindfulness and non-discrimination that should be able to bring happiness and peace to us and our family and our society. Those of us who have received the 14 mindfulness trainings, they also reflect the wisdom of non-discrimination, the wisdom of interbeing. And we have the Buddha within us, we have the Sangha within us. We should not be afraid, and we should continue the career of the Buddha by building Sanghas in our family and in our neighborhood, in our society. We should sing together, no coming, no going, before we have a cup of tea and come and visit Thai's hut. And then we gather at the bell tower nearby and do our walking meditation. Thank you for having come and spend time practicing with us. See you again. À la prochaine.